All right, everyone, we're going to get started. Good afternoon. I want to take a minute to thank you all for joining. We hope everyone is safe. I'm Alison Morris, an attorney at the Cuddy Law Firm in the Westchester office. We wanted to have this session to serve as an update on the news from the Department of Education. This session is New York City specific. There may be some takeaways if you're outside of New York City, but you should check in with your local school district. I'm going to be going through this in English and then in Spanish, and we also just wanted to let you know we are recording this. So let's get started. So we are here today to talk about fall reopening plans for schools. So New York City DOE, Department of Education schools, are not going to fully reopen in September. There's going to be in-classroom attendance that's going to be limited to about 1 to 3 days a week in an effort to continue to curb coronavirus outbreak. So it's going to be a mix of in-classroom and distance learning, which has been going on so far. There were different options schools had for their reopening plans. There was an all-remote option, which no school has chosen so far. Schools could come up with their own proposal and get it approved. Some have done this, some are still under review. And most schools chose a blended option, where students would partially be in school and partially still be remote. And there were different blended options that we're going to talk about very briefly that schools could choose from. And again, schools also had the option to submit their own plan. And so these blended options are where students are coming into school on a rotating basis and also receiving some type of remote instruction as well. Each school could be different. So if you have more than one child attending school in the Department of Education, they could be on different schedules for when they are going to be in school and receiving remote instruction if you're sending them to school. So the various options, there's 3 broad ones, 3 general model schools had to choose from. So option 1 is that there's 2 groups on alternating schedules. And there were 2 options within that for schools to choose from. So about 50% of students would be in school at a time on alternating bases. Option 2 is that there's 3 groups on an alternating schedule. So a third of the students would be in school at a time. Option 3 is there'd be 3 groups of alternating students going to school on a rotating basis, but on a 6-day cycle, if it wasn't hard enough to keep track already. So now it's going to be on that 6-day cycle that some of you might already be accustomed to. That 6-day cycle option, though, is only available to middle school and high school students. So if your child's in elementary school or younger, they don't even have that option. I'm going to be putting a link in the chat for an article that breaks down those different options and what they might look like. There's also another option, but that is only available to students who are in District 75, D75 schools. So if your child has an IEP, they might not necessarily be in one of these schools, an individualized education program, but if your child is at a District 75 or a D75 school, there's a few different options. So one is that there's 2 groups of students alternating going to school every other week. So group A, going to school Monday through Friday, and then they're on remote instruction the next week. Group B, remote instruction that first week, in school the entire next week. Another option District 75 schools had is that same model, but there's a 3rd group of students that is constantly attending school. So those 2 groups are switching off, and there's a 3rd group of students that is in school the entire time, depending on the student's needs. The DOE has also said that students with IEPs, with individualized education programs, are supposed to be having priority for in-person learning, but that is going to depend on the school's model. So more information about what this return to school is going to look like is no more than 9 to 12 children are going to be in a classroom at a time, right? Because we have to keep social distancing. September 10th is the tentative start date, but that could change. Teachers are going to have 20 minutes a day of office hours to speak directly with students and/or parents and families. Schedules are going to have to be posted ahead of time so everyone can be on the same page. Lunch is going to be held in classrooms. So students are not going to be going to their gym or the cafeteria to have lunch. It's going to be in their classroom, and they're going to receive some type of instruction during that mealtime. There is going to be physical education, PE. And so if you haven't been told what that's going to look like, especially if you're only going to be getting remote services, which we'll talk about in a moment, you might want to talk with your school district about what their plan is for your child to get physical education or PE. And Governor Cuomo has said schools can remain open as long as the COVID positivity rate stays below 5% for a 2-week period. But if it bumps up to a 9% positivity rate for 1 week, for a 1-week average, then schools are going to close again. So is there a possibility these plans could change? Absolutely. Schools can change this sort of at any time, but right now this is the information out there. And to see what the DOE has said about their blended and remote instruction programs as a whole, I'm also going to be putting another link to the DOE's website on this for you to look at if you want to. And all the DOE schools needed to submit their plans, what remote and blended instruction plan they wanted to use by last Friday. Majority of schools did submit it. Some schools did not. Some schools' programs are still under review. So most people should be hearing this week what plan their school is going with, what type of instruction and blended program their child is going to be receiving. If you don't hear from your school this week, right, it's almost the end of August, but this week is when it's probably coming out. If you don't hear from your school this week, reach out to your school to find out what their schedule is, what their plan and program is. Some more information is face masks are going to be required. They're going to be disinfecting and sanitizing every night. Students can't have a temperature of more than 100 degrees. Staff, including teachers, are going to have COVID testing on a rolling basis. And again, social distancing of 6 feet apart is going to be maintained at all times. So that is for each school's blended program. And again, your school is specific, your own school district is going to have their own specific plan. It might be different school by school. But you can also opt out of in-person learning at any time. If you just want to have your child only continue with the remote learning that's been going on, you absolutely can do this. So if you're unsure about in-person learning, you're worried about sending your child back to school, you can opt for fully online instruction. You should have received and filled out a survey about the type of instruction you wanted for your child. And if you didn't fill out that survey indicating that you wanted only remote instruction, your child was going to be or was automatically enrolled in whatever your school's plan is. So I'm going to put that survey also in the chat now. That families can fill out at any time if you haven't. Even if you have submitted that and you wanted to try the school's program, whatever it is of in-person and remote learning, and you decide you want to change your mind and you want your child just to have remote learning, you can change your mind at any time and opt for only remote learning. In addition, the Department of Education is having return to school and family student information sessions. A few of them have already taken place. The next one is August 27th, which is coming up. So to register for one of these sessions, you can go to this website. For the August 27th Department of Education information session on their reopening plans. So some things to think about as schools are reopening. One, busing. So if your child needs special transportation, you're going to be going to school, you want to check with OPT, the Office of Pupil Transportation, before school starts. As issues come up and arise, you also want to be contacting OPT and letting them know immediately, right? There likely are going to be some issues, especially if there's a rotating schedule. but you want to check in with them ahead of time and check in with them if there are any issues. If your child is not in a District 75 school and they have an IEP, I would get in touch with your school about your child's program and make sure your child is going to be getting the type of instruction they need. We've said it at prior webinars, continue to take note of any issues with your child's instruction, the services they're getting. Make sure you let your school district know any of these issues. We continue to encourage you to work with your school district to let them know about issues, but always continue to take notes and records of any issues that happen. That is, the information we have now. Again, as the weeks come out, more information and more strategies are going to be there as these plans roll out and as school gets started. But thank you guys for attending. We're going to continue to update you with information as it comes out. Stay safe. If you have any questions, we're here for you. I'm going to put our contact information in the chat as well. And additionally, I'm going to put some other resources. If anyone wants to look, there's the New York State Education Department website as they're releasing guidance, Advocates for Children and Synergia, which are also keeping updates and the pulse on what's going on with these reopening plans. And our next topic next week is going to be extended eligibility. If you have a student who has aged out or is going to be aging out of school, what the Department of Education and what New York State is saying on that. Do we have any questions before we switch over to the Spanish portion?
This is John, right? I had a quick question, Allie. You had mentioned that you can opt in to the at home only if you've been in person. Can you do the reverse and opt into in person after starting the school year remote only?
That's a great question. I would keep in touch with your school district.
Yes.
Right? The reason they want to know who's opting in and who's opting out is based on their plans, right? So if they can only have 9 to 12 students in the class, if they're only doing a 50% plan instead of a 1/3 plan, and more students want to come in, they might have to change it. So I would keep your school district updated and let them know as soon as possible when you change your mind. They might let you know, we have space, you can start as soon as possible. They might also let you know, we're going to need you to wait until the next semester, or we're planning on, in December, reworking things.
Got it.
Keep in touch with your school district. That's a great question.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Hi, yes.
Hi, my name is Lisa, and my concern is if my child has sets or resource room on the schedule in a group of 5, how is this supposed to be done in remote?
So again, that's why I think that's a great question, that when before the school year starts, if your child is either only going to be remote or it's even going to be a blend, you're choosing to go to the blended program, I would contact the school district now and ask them, my child's only going to be in school, once every 3 weeks, once every other week, or my child's not going to school at all. What are you doing to ensure that this happens? And get that information ahead of time and note any issues along the way.
Follow-up question is, I've been reaching out to my school district because my child failed 2 classes in remote and the teachers refused to email me, the principal's not talking to me, and the assistant principal's ignoring me. And I feel that we're starting on a dirty slate, and I'm concerned that my son's going to have a problem. Okay, you're on, okay? Hi.
I don't know if that was the end of the question. I understand the frustration.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Oh. No, the rest of the question, sorry, my other child was talking to me.
That's all right, that's fine, I get it.
Special ed. Anyway, my concern is that the remote went terribly awful, that my child was unable to initiate anything, and in the end, I begged them to have someone accomplish everything, and I found it bizarre. How does the kid fail in art and fails in English? And I had a special ed meeting, and the English teacher doesn't even mention it in the middle of June. So do I have to call you separately?
If you feel like things have escalated and are not reaching a point, you can of course contact us separately to see if anything else can be done. We let everyone know, especially during this time, right? There's got to be a little give and take on both sides of understanding and working together, but that of course does not mean that they are allowed to, that we feel like school districts are allowed to, completely ignore the needs of their students. So, without knowing more information, it sounds like a specific question that you might want to contact us outside, but in sort of speaking in general and broad strokes, continue to make notes of things, continue to let the school districts and keep records, meaning emails. So there's a record of you letting the school district know there's issues, asking them questions, what they're going to be doing, seeing if they're sending any answers, letting them know if nothing's been changed, so that there is at least a record of what's been going on. And the upside is perhaps they do something and change something, and the downside is if they don't, and then you need to speak with someone, there's the record that I've let them know he's failed 2 classes. What are we going to do to make that up? He needs X, and you're not giving it to him. What are we going to do to change that going forward? We also got a question from someone. The data and percentages of families opted out, that might be somewhere. I don't have that offhand. And when someone else asked, when they asked for COVID-specific accommodations, the school district said they're doing the accommodations required by Amy's executive orders. They either meant NICED or Governor Cuomo's. I don't know of any Amy's orders. The only one who can do executive orders is the governor. And then there's also NICED giving out what needs to, following the orders of what needs to be done. So I'm not sure of any AMY or Amy's orders. They might have just done a typo. I'm hoping they're not, that I'm not aware of any.
Yeah, it's New York State, and it self-correct, New York State.
I'm so sorry. Yes, I apologize. NICED is the New York State Education Department.
Yeah, no, it was me. I made the comment, and it was supposed to be NYS, New York State, not Amy. It autocorrect.
Yes. Yes, New York State's given guidance, but New York State's guidance can't go outside of or differ from federal guidance, and New York State can only do what the executive orders are.
But that's what I'm saying, is that the school district, instead of providing, because I've seen the guidelines, right? And that's all it is guidelines. However, instead of providing us, because our kid, he thrived in distance learning, but he does better with pre-recorded lessons, and he does better with a flexible schedule. And instead of actually providing that to us in some form of an addendum, she's actually sending us to mediation and saying that's her solution, is that they're providing whatever is required by, let me see, sorry, I wrote it specifically to quote the mediation page. They wrote that the district is making COVID-related accommodations as required by New York State, NYS, instead of Amy, I promise you it was NYS, executive orders.
Unfortunately, a lot of school districts are being very, hopefully again in the coming weeks, they will be more specific. Right now, things are a little vague. We're going to be following guidelines. We're going to, be getting you the schedules. Hopefully things will continue to get more specific.
I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is she wrote it specifically that way, so the mediator sees it oh yeah, they have to do these things. In reality, it's meaning, haha, I'm not putting anything on your IEP. I don't have to do jack.
So again,
that's how it's been the last year and a half. So
the response to that is continue to write, and it doesn't mean it's not bad. You're asking, continue to ask, can you give me the specifics? Or can you let right? They might not have them now. All they can say is, we know we have to follow these guidelines. but continue to ask the questions and follow up and keep notes of the, keep that there's a record of the follow-ups. I'm asking again, when you're gonna have the specific accommodations. Can you tell us?
Yeah, they labeled us hostile and aggressive because we communicate too much. So that's
if you
unfortunate.
want to talk sort of outside of this, we're always, we understand, but sort of as in generally speaking, keep doing what you're doing. You're absolutely doing the right thing.
All right.
I have a question about related services during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, in terms of the frequencies of of related services, in a non-public school, so what are the guidelines with that? They have reduced the services during the remote learning. Do we get those back, or they just is because of the COVID situation, they just get away with them reducing the services?
When you say an NPS, a non-public school, do you mean an approved one, a non-approved one?
I'm sorry, yeah, approved. Sorry, approved non-public, yeah.
Okay, so the school district is still the district that's responsible for that. If they are not providing what is on your child's IEP, so if your child's IEP said they're supposed to be getting speech 3 times a week, we're only getting it twice during this instruction, right? There's an issue between the not the approved private school that's providing it versus the district. I would touch base with the private school. If the school district is the one to do it, there's always something called compensatory education that the federal government and New York State has said can be available to individuals who, because of COVID, did not receive services that they should have and have had regression. So you should talk to your school district and your approved private school about that, about whether they can provide the makeup services.
Can I?
Yeah, and that won't create like a conflict with the approved school, right?
So I don't know enough. I can't answer that sort of specific. I don't know the school. I don't know the school district. But if your child was supposed to be getting services, and due to COVID, right, they could only do so much via virtual, or virtual, wasn't helping as much as it could have. You should speak to your your approved private school if they're the ones who are doing it, or your school district at CSE meetings, and ask about the fact that my child has missed, right? That's why I always keep a record of the services you're getting, right? My child was supposed to be getting 3 times. He only received 2 times. I want the makeup. There might be implications if you bring it up to the school district, if they can't provide, if the non-public was the one who couldn't provide it. So I can't tell you what to do in your specific situation, but broadly speaking, if your child did not receive services that they were entitled to, you can ask for makeup services.
Yeah, no, thank you. That helps a lot. Thank you so much.
And if I could just ask a question, if you're in a public placement and that happened, my name is Jennifer. Who would you speak to moving forward in September if they don't provide the frequency of a service?
Oh, absolutely. If you're in the public school, then you, at your CSE meeting, your CSE chair, there's usually that director of people personnel services, bring it to someone's attention. And that's why, again, we have been maintaining and continue to maintain, continue to maintain records of these services your child should be getting, the services they are getting, because then you should be bringing up to your school district that you wake up services. I asked for an IEP meeting about it, and just bring it to the school, CPSE chair's attention, your Committee on Special Education chair's attention. You can send it to someone at the school district's attention. If your child already has an IEP, it can be discussed at a meeting. Send it to the person who handles your CSE meetings, but absolutely bring it to their attention and say,
thank you for that. My main question would be, can they use any type of language saying due to COVID, they did not have to provide the frequency? I think that's where I need to educate myself.
So, again, the specific, it's right. School districts might say that. there is guidance that came down from the federal government and New York State discussing that compensatory services might be available for families. But yes, school districts are the ones who are going to be making those calls and determinations. There's additional guidance for what they should be looking for. And if you bring it up and your school district says no, then there's various discussions about what can be your next step.
Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. If I'm just really looking to move forward in the fall and I'm not looking for makeups from March but just moving ahead in the fall as a remote learning family, do they have to provide the frequency of services for the IEP that is to start for this coming school year in September?
So yes and no. Unfortunately, it's a yes and no question. So absolutely, guidance has said they have to continue to provide what is on a child's IEP, but there is flexibility due to COVID. Okay. And so if you are in the New York City Department of Education, you also should have received and should get something called a remote learning plan that lets you know what your child will actually be getting due to COVID. So yes, they need to be providing what's on your child's IEP, but if due to COVID they can't, there is some understanding that in a different method, or they can't do it at the same frequency. There has been guidance adjusting. There's an understanding of that, and they're going to try to work with families, and that's why they have also said those makeup services could potentially be available.
So can I just repeat, you're doing a great job. Thank you for helping me so much. So meaning if he gets speech 4 times a week and they say we can only give him 2, like in the March through June, I have to accept that, or?
So no, you should talk with them about them providing what they are going to do to provide makeup for the fact that there was only he only received half of what he should have been getting. And in terms of going forward, so let's say his IEP still says 4. Yes. I would, as I said earlier, I would touch base with them now. District, his IEP says 4. He's in the blended program, so he will be in school 1 week, but he's going to be home the next week. Or we're still doing remote. District, what are you going to do going forward so that we can keep this, so that we can get him his 4 times a week speech? Ask them, follow up with them, keep records of this, because if it doesn't work out and you need to go to a different option, potentially speaking to someone, you have a record that you have done, you followed up, you maintained, you asked, you wanted to know what they could do, and you couldn't. You're doing everything you can.
Okay, thank you.
It seems like someone raised their hand.
Hi, Allie?
Yes.
Hi, it's me, Lisa. Hi, my question is, what do you do in OT consult in remote versus not? And where are those records kept?
So that's a great question. I can't answer that question, right? But
yes, you can.
What I would suggest you do is, in terms of, OT services versus a consult, one is providing the occupational therapy services, and one is an occupational therapist consulting either with the student or with the teacher. So they are not the same service. But in terms of remote versus in school,
they said it's just for teachers.
I'm sorry?
Excuse me. They told me, even though my child, Rick, has a very bad disability and it affects motor control and has assistive technology, they refuse and said it's for the teachers. Yet at this point, either the teachers has not modified, or like in art, he failed art, and it looks like he failed it because they didn't get a consult saying the child cannot keep his hand on a piece of paper for 15 minutes to do an entire project because the child has a joint condition. What do I do?
So if there's a question, and you might want to talk to us or someone else separately, if there's a question about the appropriateness of a program or services, that's a separate question. In terms of what an OT consult is going to be, what they're able to do remote versus in school, it's going to be sort of that same answer at this point in time of we suggest that you ask your school district. My son's IEP says he's going to have an OT consult. He's going to be remote half the time, or he is going to be remote full time. Please let me know what you plan on doing now. What is the plan now for how this service is going to be provided once school starts.
What
You know,
if they-
have them tell.
So when, right, but they, as you can get the flavor, they refuse to put anything in writing, or if I say, what's the weather? They say, did you have a nice hamburger?
Maintain your records of your questions and follow-ups, and if you need to contact us or someone else regarding the appropriateness of any services, then you can sort of, everyone can sort of see the repetitive nature of it, but the importance of it, that you guys are doing everything that you can do. Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do, but you're doing everything right, of asking the questions, asking the follow-up, seeing what they can do now, right? Maybe they do something, but if they don't, you have, there's records that you've sent the emails, you followed up, you've, made a call and followed up with an email. I just left you another voicemail. Can you please get back to me regarding what you're going to be doing with this OT consult you stated you had put on the IEP but still haven't? Whatever the situation might be, maintain your records, because then if you ever need to come speak with us or someone else, it's there. They can't, it's there. Unfortunately, that's sort of the most I can give you right now without knowing more details. But again, our contact information is in the chat. All right. Again, our contact information is in the chat. There's additionally other resources there. If anyone has any questions, please, let us know. You can always contact us after this. There's one more question, then we'll switch over to Spanish. I'm scared to let my chat. This was a private. So regarding busing, it's unclear. I don't think they've said it officially, but I know, other districts outside of the city have said, parents cannot be going into the school if they're going to be dropping off and picking up. I can't imagine the DOE would be the same, but they have not released their they have not released their busing guidance. And so I would, if there's busing issues, please please reach out to your school if your child has special transportation on their IEP to ensure they're going to be getting it. Reach out to the Office of People Transportation, keep them updated with any issues. If there's any other issues that are more, need us to potentially look into this further, please contact us. We can always, look into this matter with you all separately. I am going to take a minute, and then I'm going to switch over into Spanish. I did get a private message. I'm just going to respond to that briefly, and then I'm going to switch over into Spanish. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to contact us. My email information is in the chat. Amanda Ford's information is also in the chat. Our website is also in the chat. So please feel free to contact us. In 1 minute, we're going to come back, and then I'm going to do this in Spanish. Thank you, everyone. Please stay safe.
Thanks a lot. All right, Austin, all done. She did a great job, man. Yep.
Hola a todas las personas. Ahora vamos a empezar esta presentación en español sobre el plan para reanudar en el Departamento de Educación. Buenas tardes, quiero decirles gracias por asistirlo y esperamos que todos estén seguros. Soy Alison Morris, una abogada con el Cuddy Law Firm en la oficina en Westchester. Queremos tener esta sesión como una actualización sobre las noticias del Departamento de Educación de la ciudad de Nueva York, y esta sesión es específica a la ciudad de Nueva York. Hay información si vives afuera de la ciudad, pero deben hablar con su distrito. Y quiero que todos saben que estamos grabando eso, entonces empezamos. Las escuelas en el Departamento de Educación no va a ser completamente reabierto en septiembre va a ser una mezcla de instrucción en persona en la escuela y a distancia. Y la asistencia en el aula va a ser limitado a 1 a 3 días cada semana para freno a COVID. Y entonces eran algunas diferentes opciones que las escuelas pueden escoger para reanudar. Era una opción completamente a distancia, pero no escuela escogida esta opción todavía. También las escuelas podrían elaborar su propia propuesta y conseguir que se apruebe, y algunas lo han hecho y otras están bajo revisión. La mayoría de las escuelas escogieron una opción mezclada. Entonces los estudiantes van a ser en la escuela parte de una mes y parte está a distancia. Y eran algunas opciones para esta plan mezclada que las escuelas podrían escoger. Otra vez, las escuelas podrían elaborar su propia opción, pero la mayoría escogieron algunas de lo que el departamento ofrece a los distritos. Y entonces la mayoría escogieron una opción cuando los estudiantes están en la escuela en un horario rotativa o alterno y está a distancia por otra parte. Y entonces cada escuela está diferente. Entonces si usted tiene más de un niño y están en una escuela diferente, sus niños pueden tener horarios diferentes. Entonces necesita prestar atención a esto. Entonces, las 3 opciones en general eran opción 1. Hay 2 grupos de estudiantes en horarios rotativos y hay 2 opciones dentro de ese. Opción 2, hay 3 grupos en horarios rotativos. Entonces, un grupo está en escuela parte de semana, otro grupo, y cuando no está en escuela, está aprendiendo a distancia. Hay opción 3, cual también hay 3 grupos en un horario rotativo, pero está en un ciclo de 6 días. Pero esta opción solamente es para niños que están en escuela intermedia y secundaria, y otra vez hay 2 opciones dentro de eso. Entonces sí es un poquito complicado, pero la mayoría de escuelas escogieron una de esas opciones. Y hay un enlace en el chat que puede mirar estos planes y opciones en más detalle. También, si su niño está en to the person who just asked, the English part just ended and now we're doing this in Spanish, but this is going to be uploaded. También para las personas que sus niños asistieron a las escuelas que están en Distrito 75, District 75, hay 2 opciones. Uno es que hay 2 grupos que está en escuela en semanas alterno en persona. Entonces, un grupo está en escuela lunes a viernes y otro grupo está a distancia esta semana y cada semana está alterno. Pero también otra opción para los estudiantes que están en las escuelas Distrito 65 es que hay un grupo tercero que está en escuela siempre, cada día cada semana por los niños, dependiendo de las necesidades de los niños. Entonces, esos niños asistir todo el tiempo. Pero eso es solamente para los niños que están en las escuelas de 65. Entonces, si su niño tiene un IEP, un programa individualizado de educación, no significa que eso es su plan. Si su niño tiene un IEP, pero no está en una escuela de distrito 65, sí tiene prioridad para aprender en persona, pero depende del modelo de su escuela. Más información que nosotros tenemos en ese momento de lo que cómo será eso, es que toda clase no va a tener más de 9 a 12 niños en un clase. La día que escuela va a empezar, tentativo es el 10 de septiembre, pero puede cambiar. También los profesores van a tener horas de oficina cada día de 20 minutos para hablar con estudiantes y los padres y las familias, si quieren. Los horarios deben publicarse con anticipación. El almuerzo va a ser en el aula con algún tipo de instrucción. El Departamento de Educación sí van a hacer educación física. Entonces, si todavía quizás no sabe qué va a ser eso, y especialmente si su niño solamente va a recibir instrucción a distancia, debe hablar con su distrito que el distrito va a hacer sobre eso. También los niños no van a ser en escuela más que 1 a 3 días cada semana, sino que su niño está en distrito 75. Y el gobernador Cuomo ha dicho que las escuelas pueden ser abiertas siempre y cuando la tasa de positividad de COVID se mantenga por debajo del 5% durante un periodo de 2 semanas. Pero las escuelas van a cerrar otra vez si la tasa de infección está 9% para 7 días de escuelas. Entonces, ese plan de su escuela puede cambiar. Las escuelas pueden cambiar otra vez. Eso es lo que nosotros tenemos, la información que nosotros tenemos en este momento. Y para decir que el departamento ha dicho sobre su programa en general, hay también otro enlace en el chat sobre eso. Todas las escuelas necesitaban entregar su plan por la última viernes. La mayoría se han hecho, pero algunas todavía están esperando para saber si su plan ha sido aprobado y algunas todavía necesitan entregar su plan. Esta semana, la mayoría, las escuelas deben decir a todos el plan de su escuela. Entonces, si ustedes no escuchan nada de su distrito esta semana sobre el plan de su distrito, que honorario del distrito de su niño, contacta a su distrito para averiguar su plan. También otra información es que si las máscaras son requeridas, las escuelas van a ser desinfectadas cada noche. Los niños no pueden tener temperatura más que 100 grados. El personal van a hacer las pruebas de COVID continuamente y distancia social de 6 pies siempre van a ser en efecto. También, siempre puede optar por no para la instrucción en persona si usted solo quiere instrucción a distancia. Si no está seguro sobre el aprendizaje en persona, puede decir que usted quiere instrucción por distancia. Si tiene preocupaciones sobre enviar a su niño a escuela, puede decir que solo quiere seguir con las clases a distancia. Debe entregar una encuesta diciendo qué tipo de instrucción ustedes quieren para sus niños. Si no entregara esta encuesta, automáticamente su niño estaba puesto en el plan mezclada de su distrito. Pero puede decir a cuál tiempo que usted no quiere enviar a su niño a escuela por parte del plan de su escuela que está en persona. También sesiones de información del Departamento de Educación para hablar sobre sus planes de reanudar. Entonces hay una avance otra vez en el chat para registrar por esta sesión de información. La próxima, y pienso que la última, es el 27 de agosto. Entonces, algunas cosas que queremos que ustedes pensar son, uno es que la transportación. Nosotros no tenemos mucha información en ese momento sobre la transportación. Entonces, si su niño necesita transportación especial, habla con la oficina de transportación antes de la escuela empieza. Y si hay algún problema cuando la escuela empieza con la transportación, llama el oficina de transportación inmediatamente para decirles. Si su niño no está en una escuela de distrito 75 y si su niño tiene un IEP, habla con su distrito ahora, antes de la escuela empieza, para hablar con su distrito y saber qué el distrito van a hacer cuando la escuela empieza, que el distrito van a hacer sobre los servicios de instrucción que su niño necesita. Y si hay problemas durante el año escolar, habla con el distrito sobre esos problemas. Seguimos de promover que ustedes trabajen con sus distritos y decirles cuando hay problemas, pero siempre mantengan registros y toman notas cuando y si hay problemas con los servicios, si no reciben servicios, si hay problemas con instrucción, toma y mantenga notas, pero también dice algo al distrito para que el distrito también sabe y quizás ellos hacen algo y si no, usted tiene su propio registro. Muchísimas gracias para asistirlo. Vamos a darle a ustedes información cuando nosotros lo tenemos y si tiene alguna pregunta, nuestra información para contactarnos está en el chat también. También hay otras agencias que también tienen información sobre los planes de reanudar del Departamento de Educación, de Advocates for Children y Sinergia, y también un avance por el Departamento de Estado de Nueva York. Y también el próximo presentación va a ser sobre elegibilidad y extensión de elegibilidad de niños que tienen programas individualizados de educación cuando tiene 21 años, pero necesitan más tiempo para recibir sus servicios. Entonces, si hay alguna pregunta. Bueno, si alguien tiene una pregunta, puede enviar un correo electrónico a mí o a Amanda Ford. Los correos electrónicos de nosotros están en el chat. Y cuídense a ustedes. Muchísimas gracias por venir a eso. Y buen fin de semana a todos.
Disculpe.
Sí.
Sí, yo creo que no mucha gente que habla español recibió la notificación de que esta iba a ser en español también, esta presentación iba a ser en español también.
Sí, lo siento que no era una notificación que también está en español y vamos a hacer seguro que para los próximos está en español para todos.
Yo creo que en Sinergia es una muy buena organización como para que ustedes hagan su outreach, para que la gente sepa, porque muchos de la gente que habla español y no habla inglés se pierde de muchas de estas presentaciones importantes. So, I could do the outreach for you with them and stuff, and with other parents in Spanish groups as well. So, no, thank you for everything. Have a good day. See you next week.
Bye. Bueno, adiós a todos.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.